guys, this is Yoda. So recently people started playing more Evoker on higher keys. Our group played with Sanghelios from Liquid a couple days ago just to try it out. There's an EU group that's been doing really high keys as well, like 18s, 19s with Og. The biggest question on everyone's mind is Og back? Short answer I would say is that yes, it is playable. However, I wouldn't say that it's like oppressively OP or anything. Or even meta. In previous seasons, Og could get away with doing lower personal damage or even lower total damage contribution, mainly because it was buffing the tank and the healer, right? So, for instance, your tank could maybe survive 1 key level higher because there's an Og Evoker in the group. Your healer could heal 1 to 2 key levels higher with Og because they're getting a main stat injection from the Augmentation Evoker, plus they get mana and Source of Magic, etc. Now, I would say that is not true anymore. Og, if you replace DK especially, is actually making the group harder to heal because, you know, we're replacing DK. DK is basically completely immortal with very low cooldown anti-magic shell, and full heal himself at will with Death Strike, 2 very strong other personal defensive cooldowns, and on top of that they still have AMZ. So I would say the group is actually harder to heal Og in the group compared to, you know, previous seasons where it was much easier to heal with Og. So it's, even if it becomes like strong or doing really good damage, it's still not going to be as oppressively as OP as previous seasons, so we don't really need to worry about that. As for what comps are best with Og, we did try it a couple days ago with Arcane Mage and Moonkin, mainly because James was out of town. I would say it performed pretty good, you know, damage is not bad. However, the fact that, you know, the comp is actually easier to heal, as we said, with DK, means that I think the comp is still better with DK. Like, damage is a bit better and also easier to heal with DK. So I would say the comp is better with DK. There is a comp that the EU group has been playing. In my opinion, this is probably one of the best Og comps because it has Enhanced Shaman. You really want to play Oracle Priest too, because for some reason, I don't really know what it is, Enhanced Shaman seems to benefit the most from Og. Maybe it's because it has really bursty 2-minute cooldowns as pair with Breath or something. But every time I see an Og playing with Enhanced, the Enhanced is doing massive damage. So you really do want to play that with a Priest, and Oracle Disc Priest is, you know, the best Priest of the season. They can PI the Enhanced Shaman, which synergizes really well with the Og. And then basically for the other DPS, most people have been playing Moonkin, but in my opinion, you could basically play any of the 3 top DPS. So it's like from this log, it's Moonkin, Arcane Mage, or DK, which is Unholy, or maybe even Frost DK works pretty well with Enhance. I would say if you're playing with Moonkin, which is what most people are doing, then DH is probably the best tank to go with it. Same with Arcane Mage with Enhance. Although if you play Arcane Mage Enhance, you know, I'm kind of worried for certain pulls that have 3 million casters that need to die in time, so there's that. Or you could play Enhance with DK. If you play Enhance with DK, then suddenly Warrior's looking pretty good because it's buffing both real DPS with Battle Shouts. Anyway, I would say Og is looking pretty good, especially when played with Enhanced Shaman. The main problem when playing with an Enhanced Shaman, of course, is that you only get one of the quote-unquote S tier or meta DPS in your group. Arcane Mage, Moonkin, and Unholy DK are all 3 very, very OP right now. And I would say playing a comp with only one of those is probably not going to be optimal, although as we see, they're still capable of doing really high keys. So where does that leave us on the tier list? So I have basically moved Og up to A+, you know, a few buffs later and some testing later. It looks like they're definitely playable, but they're not here to overtake the meta. They're just, you know, maybe 1 buff away from actually doing like top DPS or something. But until then, we're just going to leave them in A+. The S tier DPS, I think, are not really going anywhere. Moonkin and Arcane Mage especially are extremely OP right now. Arcane Mage has the best funnel in the game, on top of, you know, all the mage utility that we know and love. Just, you know, triple immunity, 7 defensives, can pull mobs from anywhere. They can do skips, and they also have Mass Barrier, which for some reason also gives 25% DR for fun. So Arcane Mage and Moonkin, I think, are not going anywhere. Unholy DK, despite the nerfs, has still been performing really well. Their AoE, uncapped AoE is still extremely strong. Also, there's a few bosses in the dungeon pool that just seem to work really well for Unholy DK. Like they spawn an ad every 45 seconds or something, which is perfect for Dark Transformation, an Unholy DK 2 target. And also there's just some bosses that are just, you know, straight up 2 targets, which Unholy DK excels extremely well at. We're leaving Unholy DK in the S tier. Oh, and also they're, you know, as we mentioned before, immune to death since they have AMS, 2 really strong personals, a lot of stamina, and also Death Strike, which just fully tops them for some reason. So yeah, we're leaving these 3 in the S tier for sure. Fire Mage has been played in the MDI in some keys, especially prior to Sacred Flame. Arcane Mage, while it has extremely strong funnel and good low target cleave, if your win condition is killing like 8 casters before you run out of AoE stops, Arcane Mage suddenly isn't very good at that. And Fire Mage, I would say, is better, so we're putting Fire Mage also in the S tier. Basically, you play Arcane Mage every key, and then if you notice that your group's having a lot of trouble dealing with casters, maybe you swap to Fire Mage, which is what Wonderbar did in the MDI. I have moved Frost down to A+. It does seem like if you would have played Frost, then you're probably better off just playing Arcane in every single key, since Arcane just does so good funnel and priority target damage. For the rest, in A+, not much else has changed. Oh, we did also test Frost DK. After some testing, I would say Unholy DK is still superior in every dungeon. We did not really get a good test of Rookery or Theater of Pain, so I would say those two dungeons, if you do want to swap to Frost DK, those two are the dungeons where you would do it. But for the rest, I would say, you know, either there's just insane 2-target or uncapped AoE. Like, for instance, in Workshop, you do the first pull, and it's just uncapped AoE, so Unholy DK is the best, and then the next boss is 2 targets, and Unholy DK is the best again. And then you move on to the next pull, and there's like 30 million slimes, 4 other slimes that need to die, and 1 big guy, so, you know, Unholy DK is the best again. So Unholy DK, I would say, is probably better than Frost in almost every key. Theater and Rookery are the two, again, that you would swap to Frost. We didn't really get good tests of that, so if you wanted to swap to Frost, I'd say those are the 2 dungeons. Not much other movement on the tier list. I have moved Warlock up to A tier. There have been some Chinese Warlocks pushing, and they're all playing Destro, actually. Also, we did see Destro in the MDI in Cinderbrew Meadery. He's extremely strong in that dungeon, since there's a bunch of just like small shitter mobs that are feeding you soul shards. So Warlock has been really good in the dungeon, but there have also been some Warlocks doing high keys in other dungeons. It looks like the top 2 are playing Destro only, so that is somewhat interesting. I did hear the demo was better, so maybe it's misinformed, or maybe it's just underplayed, who knows. But we are moving Warlock up to the A tier, since we've seen some groups doing really high keys with Warlock. The rest of the tier list, no real movement. Oh, we did move Brew up to A tier. There has been some really high keys done with Brewmaster. They're up to almost 3,700 now, which is extremely impressive. For Brewmaster, the comp that most of them playing, I think, is just Physical God comp, except a couple classes swapped around. Looks like this group has an Ellie Shaman as well. So yeah, it looks like the comp is actually pretty open with Brew. But yeah, Brews have been doing really high keys, so I moved them up to A tier. Also, there was a lot of Bear played in the MDI. Not only by Squish's group, but basically, you know, since thanks to the MDI rules, you cannot play your main comp for like the low keys on the first day. And it seems like most of the tanks have opted into Bear, or most of the groups have opted into Bear tank for their low keys, which implies that they think Bear is either the second best tank, or it's just one of the easier tanks to learn, one of the above. So it could be possible to move Bear to A+, but until we see some better performance on live, I am going to leave it in the A tier, along with Warrior and Brew, who have also been doing pretty good. A few other changes. I guess I moved Dev up to A randomly. Since Aug has been performing really well, it kind of reminded me that Dev provides really good utility for the healer. Basically the same thing that Aug does. Actually, Dev, I would say, makes the key even easier to heal than Aug does, because you have access to some of the Flame Shaper talents, mainly the one that gives you double Renewing Blaze. So you have like double Blaze, double Rescue, and Zephyr, and Source of Magic. So Dev is making the key a lot easier to heal, so we moved it back up to the A tier. Outlaw Rogue, people told me it has been performing really well, but then I saw something. Obviously, they are still capped in DPS, and also Killing Spree requires your tank to apparently move the whole pack away from any dangerous swirlies, and if you push it, you can randomly die. So I don't know how much I like that. We're gonna keep Outlaw in the A tier. Acid Rogue has been performing really well, especially with Warrior or Brew comps. We're leaving it in A+. It does a lot of damage right now. Main problem with it, or the main weakness, I would say, is pure single. So there's that. And, you know, not much else has moved in the tier list. I would say the biggest changes recently are that people have been playing Aug. So far from what I've seen, it's not quote-unquote meta. It's just a pretty good DPS, especially when paired with Enhanced Shaman and some sort of Priest. Just makes the Enhanced Shaman do massive damage. Alright, that is going to be it for the tier list update. Thank y'all for watching. Peace out.